Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. In a quiet corner of Thailand lies a small town called Sukafati. This town is known as a place of peace and tranquility. It is inhabited by people who are very devout in their Buddhist teachings. Traditional-style houses with brightly colored curved roofs line the streets while the small streets are lined with lanterns. Colorful lanterns hanging low bring a magical atmosphere to every corner. As early as the morning, rows of people stroll past offerings from locals who happily give food or flowers as a form of respect. The sound of the bell from the main temple of Kotaima signals the start of various religious activities. Not only that, the tradition of mass mediation in the city square is a moment that unites all in a contemplative and solemn atmosphere. With Islam, Christianity, or other religions is only a vague topic in the stories of travelers without a doubt. Achaidi is a living harmony of the same tradition passed down from generation to generation. Suikutaati hai from bianya ersi kanara, basar that Dian will go to, or to follow the religious ritual as the Normanil of Dia City, with very magnificent giant flowers where they are given a new sparkle. Tanditpaya matahariara, flower seg tangnya diara, who is a figure who but also in the surrounding area. He is known to have extraordinary wisdom and expertise in conveying the teachings of Buddhism. Residents believe that under his guidance this ritual will bring great blessings to their city. That day the city atmosphere was filled with the enthusiasm of the children of the maids. Their parents hang lanterns around the temple while the women are busy preparing traditional food for offerings. The men work together to ensure everything in Hardup Mburuhur, Menpas Yangyu Sebalaendudum D is expected. But in the midst of that holy moment, the atmosphere. Suddenly, a small boy, about 7 years old, suddenly ran into the middle of the crowd. Unexpectedly, he hit one of the low-hanging lantern decorations, causing it to fall and break on the floor. The loud noise surprised all the residents who saw it. An old man standing near the temple steps, but the child kept running past the line of offerings and almost hit one of the monks. He fought back hard when some people tried to catch him screaming, in a loud voice that filled the air in the midst of the chaos. The child suddenly stopped in front of the main altar with a sad expression. He looked up at R. The Buddha stood in front of him. The noisy atmosphere was silent. The child opened his mouth and began to recite something. The sound that came out of his mouth was clear, loud, and full of confidence, although none of the Sukati residents recognized the language he was speaking. But there was something that made everyone stunned, even those who were originally wanting to catch the child. He stopped in place, stunned. The strange but profound atmosphere that the child uttered was not something that came from Buddhist teachings, but there was a power in those words that felt like it penetrated his heart. He stepped forward and looked at the child with eyes filled with confusion and a sense of curiosity. The crowd was still silent when B. Pinch raised his middle to signal the atmosphere to remain calm with a soft but firm voice. Iwa, the child, was Anan Kipan. The child was Kepagak Berdian, Radusent An. How could a small child like, something like that in this city is where everyone embraces Buddhism? The boy did not answer immediately. He turned his face towards the large Buddha statue behind the massage parlor as if he was contemplating something. After a while, he turned to look at Little Pony with a sharp gaze. I didn't learn it from anyone. The boy finally answered, a tone that sounds more mature than his age. But I want to ask you, surprised. He did not expect this little child to come back. Bert, what do you want to ask the child with a sharpened AG that you end up? Is that word everywhere? Massage yourself without shaking his face, which was usually calm, now turned tense. The crowd of the congregation, which was previously full of eyebrows. Suddenly it turned into a noisy sound of shouts and whispers filled the air. Answer his question, Bhikkhu Pichit, exclaimed an old man from the town line. Several other bhikkhu exchanged glances, looking confused and anxious. Even approached Pichit, trying to calm him down, but the Ka's face showed shock. Jematai lost patience and the atmosphere became tense. Wow, we have an answer for a small child who is so brave. Is this not a war in the midst of the commotion? The child once again stepped forward. He stood in front of the monk with full courage and said loudly, "O monk, you are a respected leader in this city, so I will ask you, what is the key to heaven?" That simple question immediately made everyone silent. The atmosphere that was previously full of noise turned into silence. All eyes were now focused on Piquet, waiting for his answer. He lowered his head and was silent for quite a long time. Remembering the sermons that had been studied, his living cell, the Unet, who was in a hurry, their faces showed confusion and anger. Some of them muttered words of disbelief. "How could a leader like the little monk do this?" exclaimed one congregation before leaving the temple. But not all of them left. Some stayed behind, including several monks who had been close to Pippet. They approached him with faces full of questions. "Oh, teacher," one young monk started, "why did you make this decision? What happened in your heart that you left the teachings? We have been through this together all this time." Pitt took a deep breath. He looked at them with a calm but burdened gaze. The child recited a verse that I had never heard before. The verse came from the Islamic holy book, the Quran, and this is its true meaning. "The bucket to the person you are leading to him, that EK and Yankot 56, that ever really believed in the truth of the teachings that we live, the monks who listened to the ground, were stunned." Bit continued in a softer voice, "For years, I lived my life as a monk, but I always felt there was what was lost when I started reading about Islam. I found the answers to the questions that had been haunting me for a long time, but I was afraid to admit them until today. Today, that day came and reminded me that guidance comes from Allah, not from humans." After listening to the explanation of the letter Al-Qasasas verse 56, Suas in the middle of the congregation and the monks began to change their minds. Who previously believed in their teachings was struck, and the belief that they had held all their lives was shattered. A monk with a brow furrowed and approached the little girl. With a slightly trembling voice, he asked the teacher, "Do you think that the path we have taken is really wrong?" "I never thought of doubting, but my heart felt it." Turumbang Ambing, since hearing your explanation. Pitt stared at Jirat with understanding. "I'm not asking you to just follow me. I'm just asking you to ask your own heart. If you have any doubts, don't ignore them. Seek the truth, even if it takes us down a different path. Har bear that flows on the cheeks, accepting Islam as their new way of life, which happened at the big religious event, became a turning point for the city of Sukafati, a city that was previously known as the center of devout Buddhist teachings. The milking that is small, the silence of the house that is filled with the values of Islam, and the of that I am. Harun, you come from here. Isn't your family also Buddhist?" The boy nodded slowly. "Yes, my family is a devout Buddhist family, but for some reason, since I was little, I often dreamed of hearing verses from the Quran. I don't know what the verses mean, but the words are embedded in me." In the memory of Harun's parents who attended the meeting, they looked confused and worried. His father, a PR named SDA, stood up and said, "We never taught Aaron to be halal like this. We don't know where he got all this. His mother, a woman who is friendly to us, is this in the womb. Is a sign for all of us what happened to him was not a coincidence. This is God's way of showing the way the story of Aru and the extraordinary events in the city of Sukafati quickly spread throughout Thailand. A video of a young child reciting verses from the Quran fluently, despite coming from a Buddhist family, has gone viral on social media. The video has caught the attention of many people, including Buddhist religious figures and the general public. Various media outlets have covered the story, from television stations to newspapers to YouTube, discussing how a child is able to memorize holy verses from a religion he is completely unfamiliar with. Public debate has arisen, with some considering it a miracle, while others are trying to find out explanation. Islamic Thailand is a religion that was previously only known as a minority in the country, but many people are trying to find out a lot about it. Islamic teachings book about the Quran is selling well, and Tokarjit Banyungdar Nono, who is a Muslim spiritualist, explains how Islam teaches universal love, justice, and truth. Among those most affected by this event are the community of monks, many of whom feel disturbed by what happened in Kafati, especially after seeing former Mecca Pichit monk took the Shahada, a senior monk with a big name who is known as a Buddhist scholar, decided to visit Sukafati in person in Dengdia Sabara. This incident triggered conversion wave in Thailand. Thousands of people from various backgrounds embraced Islam after listening to Kis Arun and practicing the teachings of this religion. Mosques in various big cities such as Bangkok and many new converts Islamic organizations in Thailand work together to provide guidance and education for new converts, is Seb Min the newcomers. This strengthens Islamic brotherhood throughout the country. After reciting the Shahada about embracing Islam, he felt a big change in his life. He felt at peace with himself and found the answer to the doubts that had haunted his heart. As a former monk who was once respected in Buddhist circles, Pitt felt he had a responsibility. Great to share what he has learned and felt to others from the city of Sukafati, where he began his spiritual journey. Pichit began to develop the Islamic preaching in various cities in Thailand, using his personal experience to explain how Islam comes with peace, wisdom, and compassion. He speaks with full confidence about the truth that he found in the Quran and the Hadith and how his life began. Starting his preaching by visiting big cities in Thailand such as Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and Pattaya Pit, he spoke about the importance of seeking the truth and how Islam teaches us to loving fellow human beings without distinction of religion or background. In Bangkok, Pichit speaks at mosques and Islamic community centers, explaining his experience of putting the guidance he received through the Sukafati incident. The success of P's preaching in Thailand has attracted the attention of many people abroad leaders. The international Muslim community invited him to speak at various global Dawah events. He visited countries such as Malaysia, Indonesia, and Singapore, where his Dawah was warmly received. Pitt spoke about his spiritual experience. How a Buddhist monk can find peace and truth in Islam. He also visited several Western countries such as America, the United Kingdom, and France, where many people are interested in understanding more about Islam. He tells about his experience as a monk who is looking for the meaning of life and how his journey led him to Islam. The success of the Dawah Pichit spread like a fire burning in the darkness. Many people embraced Islam after listening to it. His lectures and felt the same peace that he felt. P also launched a Dawah organization to help people who are interested in studying Islam. This organization not only talks about Islamic teachings, but also carries out various social activities, such as helping the poor and educating the younger generation about the importance of respecting religious differences. And the culture of the story is a pinch from a mute Buddhist who was full of doubts until he became a Muslim, who preached and became an inspiration for many people throughout the world. Now, P continues to preach to all corners of the world, spreading the message of love, peace, and brotherhood between mankind. Success in spreading Islam shows that truth can come in various forms and guidance. God will always find a way,